Now that we have collected all the rare items, it's time to talk about the materials dropped by Heartless. Each Heartless has a particular drop rate percentage for their material, which I will leave beside each one in the description of this video in case you're curious. Remember that I have left the link to a PDF file in the description, which you can print off and use as an easy way to keep track of everything. On a side note, I just want to mention that the Bambi Summon can be useful when trying to collect particular items. The way Bambi works is that by defeating Heartless, you will fill up Bambi's charge gauge, and once he gets filled, he will reward you with certain materials depending on what world you're currently in. The more times it gets filled, the greater the odds of dropping certain items, and the rarest ones are gifted once the gauge has been filled 3 or more times. However, most of the materials which Bambi drops are not extremely rare and relatively easy to collect by normal means, so I will only include Bambi variations for certain items which I will mention when we get to them. I will also leave all the info on Bambi down in the description so you can decide whether you want to use him or not for certain materials. When choosing the best place to find each Heartless, I considered how easy the area is to access, how close it is to a save point, and the number of that Heartless which appear. Now each time you defeat a group of Heartless in a particular place, you need to leave 2 rooms of space between them in order for the Heartless to respawn. So if I needed a Heartless in Traverse Town's 3rd district, after defeating it I would have to go to the 2nd district, then to the 1st district to leave enough space for the Heartless to reset. So I also took this into consideration when choosing the best areas to find certain Heartless as well. Some materials are much harder to obtain, with crystals being the rarest, followed by stones, gems, and finally shards being the easiest to obtain. If you want the exact drop rate for each item, remember to check the description. Throughout this section you will hear me saying special Heartless. This refers to Heartless which appear in set areas but don't normally appear, with each one requiring different strategies to defeat, which I will go over in more detail as I get to each one. Now as you're travelling along collecting items, you may want to return frequently to the Moogle workshop and forge some items to help you on your journey. A nice reward is also given after synthesizing 15 items, an ability called Encounter Plus. This ability allows Heartless to reset after leaving just 1 area of space instead of the normal 2. However, this only works on regular Heartless and has no effect on special Heartless or white mushrooms. Throughout this video I chose to use the Diamond Dust Keyblade, which is obtained after defeating the Ice Titan in the gold match in the Olympus Coliseum. This is because using magic is a lot faster than regular attacks at defeating Heartless, and is invaluable when facing certain special Heartless. So my advice is to max out on the magic, with the Diamond Dust being the best Keyblade for enhancing magic, and use all your equipment which uses the phrase enhances magic, which is different to just increasing Sora's MP bar. Choose a powerful magic spell in your shortcut tabs, such as Thundaga in my case, and vanquishing Heartless becomes an absolute breeze. And finally, the last thing I want to make a note on, as you're going around item hunting, make sure that you have Lucky Strike equipped on Donald and Goofy, which is an ability that increases the odds of Heartless dropping rare items. Sora may or may not have this ability at level 70, depending on the weapon you chose at the beginning of the game. I didn't have it during my playthrough, and I still didn't have any trouble getting the items to drop, but if you have it you might as well equip it. So now with that explained, we can start the main section of my synthesis guide. Just remember that everything is organised by world, and timestamps are down below. So starting in Traverse Town, when you enter the 2nd district you may come across a special Heartless called Sniper Wild. Now these Heartless are one of the most annoying in the game, so it's good to get them banged out as early as possible. They appear in waves starting with 1, then 2 and finally 3 Sniper Wilds will appear, and only after defeating the trio will they have a chance of dropping the Power Stone. If you have defeated all 3, it will reset at 1 and continue until up to 5 waves have been defeated. However, more than likely you will be spotted long before that. Once you've been spotted, they will call for reinforcements. If they're allowed to finish their call, an endless stream of them will begin to appear, hitting the party with unblockable shots. At that point you need to leave the area as the item will no longer be dropped. The key to defeating them is to cast Stopga, which has enough range to stop all 3. Now it wears off quite quickly, so you may need to cast it multiple times before you manage to defeat them, and is another good reason to invest in magic as stated previously. Personally, I tend to run out of magic around the 3rd reset, so I will advise you to bring along magic restoring items. With a little experience, you'll begin to understand the range at which they can see you, which is surprisingly small, but regardless, fighting this Heartless is always nerve wracking. Once you have collected 5 Power Stones, we can move on. Next, you're going to need 4 bright crystals, which are dropped by defenders, best found in Traverse Town's hotel. You can continue to loop between the 3 rooms of the hotel to get easy access to these Heartless. Now, after you've defeated the wave of defenders, stay in the hotel, where you will also find easy access to a group of wizards. Again, just loop between the 3 rooms, defeating both sets of Heartless until you have the required materials. You need 3 power crystals, which are dropped by wyverns. Now, wyverns are one of the few Heartless which appear frequently in almost every world late in the game, so you can actually leave them for now, and while on your journey to collect the Synthesist materials, you will more than likely obtain the power crystals. However, if you still don't have the required materials or want to collect them now, then stay in Traverse Town 2nd District, where they are found all over, including a large group of them on the roof. If any other Heartless fall into this category, I will mention it when we come to them. Similar to wyverns, search ghosts appear in many worlds during the late game. However, they are far less frequent than other Heartless which have the same property. So I'm going to recommend you stay in Traverse Town 2nd District, where you'll find plenty of search ghosts to farm for bright gems. There are groups which appear beside the fountain, and another large group of these Heartless appear on the roof as well. In Wonderland's bizarre room behind the Queen's Castle is where you can find a special Heartless. Now, before it appears, you need to defeat several waves of shadows, which just so happens to provide a great place to hunt for all 37 Lucid Shards, which these Heartless drop frequently. This is a very handy setup, as it not only lets us farm Lucid Shards, but also lets us collect a rare item dropped by the special Heartless found here, which we will cover next. As I alluded to earlier, there's a special Heartless located in the bizarre room behind the Queen's Castle called Giga's Shadow. When the area is surrounded by Shadow Heartless, this indicates that the Giga's Shadows will appear. All you need to do now is defeat the 3 waves of shadows. Afterwards, the Giga's Shadows will appear throughout the room, and the key here is to get hit as little as possible. Every time Sora gets hit, the odds of the Fury Stone being dropped lowers, so my best advice is to use Strike Raid or Sonic Blade. These Heartless aren't very stubborn when it comes to dropping items, so it shouldn't take you too long before you get the 5 Fury Stones you need. Now, along your travels, you will have come across a variety of rare mushroom Heartless, all of which can drop a rare material known as Mystery Goo. Yet the easiest method is through the white mushrooms. In order to get white mushrooms to drop items, including the Mystery Goo, you need to cast a certain spell on them, corresponding with their different gestures. Now, white mushrooms which are found later in the game will perform a wider variety than those found earlier. The problem with this is that if you cast different spells on them, they have a low chance of dropping the material, but if all 3 spells are the same, the odds greatly increase. Therefore, we need to increase the odds of getting the same gesture 3 times before they disappear. Because of this, Wonderland's Lotus Forest is the perfect area to farm Mystery Goos. This is the earliest area where the white mushrooms are found, and therefore will only ask you to perform one of 3 spells, either Fire, Blizzard, or Thunder. Now, if they shiver, you need to cast Fire. If they're cooling themselves off with their hands, cast Blizzard. And if a light appears overhead, cast Thunder. Thankfully, the Lotus Forest is easily accessible and right beside a save point, so it shouldn't take too long before you obtain 10 Mystery Goo. Just remember that you always need to leave 2 rooms of space for white mushrooms to respawn. Now, while in Wonderland, you should collect your Frost Shards. They are dropped by blue Rhapsodies, found all throughout the Lotus Forest. The Lotus Forest also provides the best spot to find Earth Soldiers, which drop Spirit Gems. We must now head over to the Deep Jungle World in order to collect Power Shards, which are dropped by both Power Wilds and Bouncy Wilds. Now, when you manage to get to this late stage in the game, you may start to notice that Heartless that were once very rare are now commonplace, and in turn some of the most familiar Heartless seldom appear late game, including Power Wilds and a few others that we will cover later. This means that obtaining Power Shards from Power Wilds becomes very tedious due to the sheer lack of numbers that appear. So as an alternative, we must instead defeat the numerous bouncy wells scattered throughout the deep jungle's treehouse. The best route I have found is to scale the treehouse from the entrance using high jump, then glide around the side and proceed to climb the ladder to the roof where most of the bouncy wells reside. Like the name suggests, these Heartless are much quicker and more evasive than their masculine counterparts, and have a tendency to run away while throwing banana peels on the ground if you get too close, which will cause the party to drop money if they slip on them. However, due to the close proximity of the areas in the treehouse, they will almost always try to flee. Therefore, you'll need to cast Thundaga, as I do here, in order to temporarily stun them and prevent them from running and escaping, which you will do if given the chance. Afterwards, you can easily drop down onto the outer balcony of the second floor to have another go at a group of these Heartless. Power shards are not exactly rare, so it shouldn't be long before you obtain the 13 that you need. Afterwards, you can glide away from the treehouse and fall into the tree line near the entrance to take you back to the treetop area, which has a save point to heal up your magic. From here, you can continue to loop between the treehouse and the treetop to farm for items while healing. In the deep jungle's bamboo thicket is where you can find a special Heartless called the Black Ballad. When the battle begins, it will separate into 5 identical copies of itself in order to play a fun kind of minigame. We need to follow the real Black Ballad as it shuffles itself between the replicas. Before it begins, the real one will jump in the air, indicating that that's the one to follow, and once they all come to a halt, it's your job to hit the right one. Now as you get further along, it will begin to speed up, until the point where it's damn near impossible to follow, and becomes a game of luck. I've seen some people pausing the game in order to follow it, however I find it much easier to track just by watching it. You need to hit it 5 times correctly before it disappears, and each time the odds of getting the lightning stone increases. You're only allowed 3 mistakes, and if you hit it wrong for the 4th time, it will vanish. I'm quite good at following this Heartless, and I find it quite fun, but I know some of you are going to hate this Heartless. But stay in there, and generally they drop quite frequently, and because you only need 5, it shouldn't take too long. In the deep jungle's cliff, there's a little ledge where you'll find loads of green requiems, perfect for farming bright shards. Now onto possibly the most complicated Heartless of them all, the special Heartless Pink Agaricus, which drops the much needed Serenity Power. It's found in the deep jungle's treehouse, and before it appears, 3 motionless white mushrooms will be randomly located in certain areas of the treehouse. You need to find all 3 and cast stop magic on them. Afterwards, the Pink Agaricus appears in the centre of the treehouse. However, if you defeated Sabor, the optional boss way back when you first arrived in the deep jungle, there will be a hole in the floor, which the Heartless will fall through and end up in the netting area underneath instead. Now the whole trick behind the Pink Agaricus is to cast stop on it, and during the period where it is under the influence of stop magic, hit it as many times as you can. Once stop wears off, it will begin counting the times it was hit, and the higher the number, the greater the odds of getting the Serenity Power, up until a maximum of 100, which is a guaranteed drop, but not something I have ever achieved. So because this Heartless is so complicated, I'm going to organise everything in steps so you can follow along. As a prerequisite, make sure that you have the Ragnarok ability equipped on Sora. This is crucial. So first I want to show you all the possible locations of the white mushrooms throughout the treehouse, but before we go further, I need to mention that the most common white mushroom appears right at the entrance to the treehouse and is visible as soon as you enter this area. Luckily, we're going to need this particular white mushroom, which I will explain later, but this also lets us know right away if the special Heartless will appear or not. So the first step is to continue to enter and exit the treehouse area until you see the white mushroom at the entrance. Do not cast stop on this white mushroom yet, this is very important, just continue on to step 2. The second step is locating the other 2 white mushrooms to cast stop on them. They can appear in any of the following areas: under the stairs inside the treehouse, on top of the balcony above the stairs, inside the wooden boat outside the treehouse, on the upper outside floor facing the wooden boat, on top of the mast at the back of the treehouse, and on top of the crow's nest above the wooden boat. For your third step, go back to the white mushroom at the entrance and make sure Donald and Goofy are in full view of the camera. Now summon Bambi, fill up your MP gauge and cast stop on the final white mushroom. Once you've done that, the pink Agaricus will appear. Now head over to where it is located and keep the entrance where you last saw Donald and Goofy in full view of the camera. If the pink Agaricus is inside the treehouse, it may be a little harder, but try your best to keep your view towards that area. The reason we must do this is to trap Donald and Goofy away from the special Heartless, because every time they hit the pink Agaricus, it will take a point away from your score. Therefore, this step is very much critical to obtain a high score, and also why the white mushroom at the entrance is so necessary. Now on to the final step. So before you dismiss Bambi, cast Iroga on yourself. This acts as a second attack and is necessary to get a high score. Afterwards you can dismiss Bambi. This is when Donald and Goofy will be trapped behind the branch at the entrance, and cast Stopka on the pink Agaricus. There are 2 points which you can lock onto, either the head or the body. Make sure that you're locked onto the head, as this will act as an aerial opponent, allowing you to activate the Ragnarok ability that I mentioned earlier. Now it's a game of timing. As soon as the first Ragnarok ends, you need to be ready to activate it again. Because Ragnarok and Iroga make up the vast majority of the hits, it all comes down to how many times you can pull off the Ragnarok ability before Stopka runs out. This is also another reason to max out on the magic enhancing abilities and equipment, many of which are only obtained through Moogle Synthesist, so personally I would advise leaving this Heartless to the very end until you come back with the best equipment to deal with it. Unfortunately, you're going to need 7 Serenity Powers, but a little trick I learned is to glide over near the entrance to the treehouse and fall down into the jungle below. This will bring you back to the treetop save point, allowing you to recover MP and continue to loop between these areas until you obtain the necessary materials. Best of luck, and if any of you manage to get 100 hits, let me know below. Now head over to Agrabah, and located along both the main street and the plaza, you will find both large bodies and soldiers, which drop spirit shards. Make your way to Agrabah's palace gates, where you can find a special Heartless called the Pot Scorpion. As the name suggests, this Heartless is randomly hidden inside one of the 12 pots that appear here. Now if Sora walks up to a pot and is able to move it, this is an indication that the pot is breakable, and the one with the Heartless inside stays still. You should always break open all the other pots beforehand, because although very rare, you may be rewarded with a Mythril Stone. When the Heartless first breaks free, it will begin to spew poison along the palace gates. Now you can't damage the Pot Scorpion until you deflect its charge attack, which is telegraphed by its snapping pincers, and expose its underside where it's vulnerable. Because there are pools of poison surrounding the palace gates, you will want to use Ars Arcanum to avoid the lumps of poison. Once you've damaged the Pot Scorpion enough, its tail will begin to glow, while launching a long stream of poison throughout the area. This time you need to deflect its tail attack in order to finish it off, which this time is telegraphed by a subtle arch in the Pot Scorpion's body. This is another Heartless where I find the less you get hit, the better the odds of it dropping the Mythril Stone. Outside the Cave of Wonders is a great area where you'll find Fat Bandits and Bandits, both of which drop Blaze Gems. Luckily for us, the inside of the Cave of Wonders also provides a great spot to find many of these Heartless, so the best strategy I found is to continue farming between the inside and the outside of the Cave of Wonders until you collect the materials you need. Now head over to Monstro and make your way inside the stomach, where you may come across a special Heartless known as Grand Ghost. This Heartless cannot be damaged by normal attacks or magic. The only way to defeat the Grand Ghost is to use items on it, and the better the items, the better the odds are of obtaining one of the Frost Stones you need. All across Atlantica you will find sheltering zones and subsequently sea neons, which both drop Frost Gems. I personally stayed around Triton's Palace and the Undersea Gorge, as it's close to a save point, and also gives us access to the other Heartless here in Atlantica, which we will cover next. Similarly located in many places in Atlantica, you will find aqua tanks, and more commonly screwdivers, both of which drop thunder gems. Again, like I said before, staying around Triton's Palace and the Undersea Gorge when farming for thunder gems proved to be the best strategy. Now you're going to need 9 Lucid Crystals as well, which are dropped by Dark Balls. Dark Balls are another one of these Heartless that are pretty much found everywhere, so you could leave them until the end of your Synthesist journey after collecting all the other materials, and you may have got the Lucid Crystals you need. But if you still didn't obtain all the materials, or you just want to collect them now, then head over to Halloween Town's Moonlight Hill, which has the most amount of Dark Balls appearing in a single area in the game. Other honourable mentions are Traverse Town's 2nd District, and the Freezer in Neverland, which is the dark basement type area in the lower level of the ship, both of which can serve as a nice alternative if things grow stale. All throughout Halloween Town you will find White Knights and Gargoyles, both of which drop Lucid Gems. They don't appear in one particular area, but instead are well scattered throughout the various areas of the world, and the best course of action therefore is to travel between all the areas of Halloween Town where these Heartless appear, until you have the required materials. The best route is to go from the Guillotine Square to the graveyard, then use the Lantern platform to transport you to Moonlight Hill, which, as I stated previously, provides the best area to obtain Lucid Crystals, and finally onto the Mana Ruins. All these areas provide the Heartless you need, and when you arrive at the Mana Ruins, you have a chance of encountering a special Heartless. Now before it appears, you need to defeat several waves of White Knights, which creates a very handy setup, as it not only lets us farm Lucid Gems, but also lets us collect the rare item dropped by the special Heartless found here, which we will cover next. Afterwards you can follow the river, and it will take you back to the Guillotine Square to continue the process again. As you can see throughout this route, we have encounters with other valuable Heartless that we need, so I believe this is the best course to take until you have all the materials needed. Now, as I alluded to earlier, when you return to the Mana Ruins in Halloween Town, most of the time you will find waves of White Knights appearing along the river. This is a sign that the special Heartless Chimera will appear once the waves of Heartless are defeated. After which the Chimera will fall from the sky and the battle begins. Now the whole trick to this Heartless is to deflect the little heads that scatter in various directions close to the Heartless's body once it has taken enough damage. Now once again, Iroga is the key to defeating this Heartless quickly and efficiently, with the wind magic acting as a shield that deflects all the heads it comes in contact with, making this fight relatively simple. As the fight progresses, the Chimera will summon gargoyles to help it, but they will be handily taken out by Donald and Goofy, so you can focus all your attention on deflecting the heads and damaging the Heartless. Naturally, the more heads you deflect, the greater the odds are of the Chimera dropping the Blazing Stone. Go to Neverland's Hold. This is the area where you woke up in when you first arrived here, and just outside the room with the save point, you will find lots of yellow operas. This makes it the best spot to farm for Thunder Shards. Now while in Neverland, you need to pick up 11 Power Gems, which are dropped by pretty much every pirate Heartless, including pirates, buccaneers and air pirates. The best place to find large groups of these Heartless would be while looping between the captain's quarters and the deck of the ship. Now from time to time a special Heartless will appear on the deck, which we will cover next, but if not, then groups of air pirates and buccaneers appear. As you can see, this creates a great scenario for collecting Power Gems. Just make sure that when you're outside the ship, that the materials don't fall into the water, as they will disappear. Now when you make your way outside of the ship onto the deck, you may come across a special Heartless called Jet Balloon. This Heartless will run away from Sora and disappear very quickly if given the chance, so you need to be fast and defeat it quickly. At times during this fight it will stop briefly and start summoning missile divers to fire at the party, which will cause you to drop money if they hit you. This makes it extremely difficult to get close. However, we have Iroga, which is the only easy way to defeat this Heartless, as it allows us to fly directly towards the jet balloon, deflecting the incoming missile divers. Another thing I want to make a note on, make sure that you have the Combo Master ability equipped on Sora, which allows him to continue his attacks regardless if he makes contact with anything or not. If the ability is not equipped, Sora will be far too slow to start a new combo every time it comes within range due to its speed, and before you get the chance to defeat it, it will more than likely disappear. And lastly, just make sure that you have the Treasure Magnet ability equipped on the party, stay close to the Heartless, and also make sure you're slightly below it as well to ensure that when it is defeated, that the Dazzling Stone which it drops does not fall into the water and fade away. This has happened to me on more than one occasion and is very frustrating, therefore I will advise against casting spells on this Heartless for that very reason. Best of luck in obtaining the 6 Dazzling Stones, and remember to loop between the deck and the ship's cabin save point, creating a nice little setup for obtaining the materials you need. Now when you manage to get to this late stage in the game, you may start to notice that Heartless that were once very rare are now commonplace, and in turn some of the most familiar Heartless seldom appear late game, including Red Nocturnes which drop Blaze Shards. In fact, these Heartless are so rare that I could only find them in 2 areas, both of which are Hollow Bastion's castle gates. Therefore let's head back to Traverse Town and use Bambi instead. Now I don't use Bambi often throughout this guide, simply because it's pretty easy to get the majority of the items that Bambi drops anyway, except in this case for Blaze Shards. Now the reason we must go back to Traverse Town is because Bambi drops different materials depending on what world you're currently in, so if we want Blaze Shards we need to go to Traverse Town. The more enemies you defeat, the more Bambi's blue gauge fills up, and every time it fills up, it gives you a chance to collect the item you need. So I recommend the 2nd district, as there are more Heartless here than anywhere else in Traverse Town. This method is much faster than hunting Red Nocturnes, and it shouldn't take you too long before you have all the Blaze Shards you need. Now in both rooms where you fought Riku, Hollow Bastion's entrance hall and the Grand Hall, a special Heartless called Stealth Soldier will appear here. Its unique ability allows it to appear invisible to the party, and the only way to track its sporadic movements is to lock onto it. The best thing to do is to cast Stopka on the Heartless, however it breaks free extremely fast, so you need to be quick about attacking. Once it drops below half health, it becomes visible and easier to track, but maintains its fast twitch nature. Now the really tricky thing about the Stealth Soldier is that if you are not locked onto it for even 10 seconds, it can just vanish, which I have had happen to me on multiple occasions. And also particularly with the ones found in the Grand Hall, if you do not stay close enough to these Heartless, they will also be keen on just disappearing, which is the most annoying part about farming these Heartless. Eventually you'll begin to get the hang of them, and the good part about the Stealth Soldier is that they appear in groups of 2 to 5 in a given area, meaning that you could potentially obtain the 6 energy stones you need in just a couple of cycles between rooms. Speaking of which, the Grand Hall is much handier for farming materials, as it leaves a perfect amount of space between the Grand Hall and the save point in the Castle Chapel, allowing for easy access to healing which you may need. To finish up, head over to the end of the world's final rest with the ability Encounter Plus. Now just behind here there's a room known as Linked Worlds, where you'll find Invisible and Angel Star Heartless, both of which drop Gales. Because this area is right beside the final rest, you can keep going between both rooms and they will always respawn, unless you come across white mushrooms or the special Heartless which we will cover next, and because of this Gales become one of the easiest materials to collect. Now the final materials that we need are 4 Stormy Stones dropped by the special Heartless Neo Shadows at the end of the world. The Neo Shadows are stronger and faster versions of the Shadow Heartless located in the room behind the final rest. These Heartless are amongst the most difficult, as they work together strategically throughout a multi-stage battle, which changes depending on the number of Neo Shadows still alive. At the beginning of the fight, there are 7 Neo Shadows who will attack by jumping in the air, spinning momentarily, at which point they are invulnerable, and then launching themselves at the party. They can also use melee attacks once they are on the ground, and sink into the floor exactly like shadows. While fighting these Heartless, it's important to string together long combos in order to prevent them sinking into the ground. At this point in the fight they are vulnerable to stop magic, so use it if you're having trouble. Once there are only 4 Neo Shadows remaining, they change tactics and sink into shadowy portals that appear beneath them on the ground. Afterwards, 9 of these portals will appear around Sora, and the Neo Shadows will choose random portals to jump out of and attack simultaneously. The only time they can be hit at this stage is right when they land on the ground, before the portals appear beneath them once again. If a single blow connects with one of them, it opens a short window to execute a combo. At this point, stop magic no longer affects them. Once there are only 2 Neo Shadows left, they change tactics once more. In this stage of the fight, a single Neo Shadow will wander around the room. While this Neo Shadow attacks, the other one appears as a black portal beneath you, then partially emerges from it to grab Sora's leg, preventing him from moving, attacking, or using magic for a brief period. To counter this, Sora can jump when the portal appears beneath him, but cannot hurt this Neo Shadow in any way. When there's a single Neo Shadow remaining, it will move to the centre of the room and attempt to summon more Neo Shadows. 90% of the time I defeat the Heartless at this point and usually receive the Stormy Stone. However, if you're not a high enough level and can't defeat the last remaining Neo Shadow quick enough, they will emerge from the portals and the fight will reset. Once the emerging Neo Shadows are slain, you can direct your attention to the final Neo Shadow and defeat it to end the fight. Now that we have collected all the items and materials, let's head back to the Moogle workshop in Traverse Town and start synthesizing. So as I mentioned during the introduction, there are various lists of items which can be synthesized, and in order to unlock all the different lists, a certain number must be synthesized from the previous lists. As I have said throughout the video, don't wait until you've collected everything. Make sure that you come back frequently to synthesize and obtain some of the best items in the game to help you along your journey, including the very valuable ability Encounter Plus, which saves a lot of time while item hunting. So in the beginning we can access the following 6 items: a Mega Potion, Cottage, Energy Bangle, Power Chain, Magic Armlet, and an EXP Earring. Once you have created at least 3 of the previous 6 items, you get access to the second list of items, which include a Mega Ether, Guard Earring, Angel Bangle, Golem Chain, Rune Armlet, and a Moogle Badge. Once you have created at least 9 out of the previous 12 items, you get access to the third list of items, which include an AP Up, Dark Ring, Master Earring, Gaia Bangle, Titan Chain, and a Mythril. At this stage you have the opportunity to receive the Encounter Plus ability, which the Moogle will reward you with once you have synthesized 15 items. By synthesizing at least 15 out of the previous 18 items, you also get access to the 4th list, which includes an Elixir, Defense Up, Heart Guard, 3 stars, Atlas Armlet, and a Crystal Crown. Now once you have created at least 21 out of the previous 24 items, you will get access to the 5th list of items, which include a Dark Matter, remember that we need to forge 3 of these, a Mega Elixir, Power Up, Cosmic Arts, EXP Bracelet, and finally a Ribbon. Now if you manage to synthesize all 30 of these items, you'll get access to the 6th and final bonus list, which is the one we've been waiting for, and includes some of the most powerful weapons for Donald and Goofy. First up is the Fantasista for Donald. Afterwards, let's synthesize the 7 elements for Goofy. And finally, we can now synthesize the most powerful Keyblade in the game, the Ultima Weapon for Sora. Congratulations, you have now completed the Moogle synthesis. The only thing left for you to do now is defeat Ansem. But before you go, my young Keyblade wielder, I just want to thank you so much for following alongside me on this guide. This has been by far my biggest project to date, and I want to thank you all for the support for Shady Riku. As I am aware, I've not uploaded in quite some time, and I just want to apologise for that, but things are back on track as we speak, so expect plenty more videos to be coming out in the near future, depending on the size of the projects, and I have a lot of things planned, so stick around for them. And finally, I want to thank everybody for all the comments, which I always reply to, and the positive feedback. I have a few things planned for my subscribers, but I will discuss that in a separate video. But as of now, I want to thank you all again for watching my synthesis guide. I hope this has helped you. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you all on the next one.
My friends are my power.